At some point in life, something quietly begins to change. It doesn't happen all at once, and there isn't a clear moment when you can say, "This is when everything became different." Instead, it's subtle, gradual, almost invisible at first. You simply start to notice that your days feel a little quieter than they used to. Your phone doesn't ring as often, messages don't come in the same way. Conversations that once felt effortless now feel shorter, lighter, sometimes even a little distant. And the people who used to be part of your everyday life, people you talked to without thinking, people you shared small, ordinary moments with, somehow become less present. And then one day, maybe not dramatically, maybe just in a very ordinary moment, you realize something that's a little hard to put into words. You feel more lonely than before. Not completely alone, not in a way that looks obvious from the outside, but in a quiet, internal way that's difficult to explain. It's not that there's no one around you, it's that something about the feeling of connection has changed. If you've ever experienced this, even just a little, I want you to stay with me for a while, because what you're feeling is more common than you think. And more importantly, it doesn't mean that something is wrong with you or your life. In fact, there are reasons for this, very real, very human reasons, and once you begin to understand them, this feeling becomes a little less confusing and a little less heavy. Let's start from something simple. When we think about loneliness, we often assume it's about the number of people in our lives. We imagine that if we just had more friends, more conversations, more social interaction, we wouldn't feel this way. But as we grow older, we slowly begin to realize that loneliness is not really about how many people are around us. It's about something much quieter and much deeper than that. One of the first changes that happens is that life naturally rearranges the people around us. When we were younger, connection didn't require much effort. School, work, daily routines, these environments created proximity. You saw the same people every day. You talked, you laughed, you shared time without needing to plan it. Connection was built into your life structure. But as time goes on, that structure changes. People move away. They enter different phases of life. Their priorities shift. Some focus on family, some on career, some on things you may not even fully see from the outside. And what's important to understand is that this doesn't usually happen with intention. People don't sit down and decide to become distant. It just happens gradually, as each person follows their own path. And because it happens so quietly, it can feel confusing. You may wonder, did I do something wrong? Or why does it feel like everyone is drifting away? But often, it's not about you at all. It's simply the natural direction life takes. Now, here's something that many people don't realize at first. Even though the number of connections may decrease, the expectation of connection actually becomes deeper. When you were younger, casual interactions were enough. A simple conversation, a shared activity, or even just being in the same space could create a sense of belonging. But as you grow older, that changes. You begin to look for something more meaningful. You want to feel understood. You want conversations that go beyond the surface. You want presence, not just proximity. And because your expectations become deeper, it also becomes harder to feel satisfied with shallow interactions. This creates a kind of gap. On one side, there are fewer interactions than before. On the other side, your need for depth has increased. And in that gap, loneliness quietly appears. There is also another layer to this, something more internal. As we grow older, we become more aware not just of other people, but of ourselves. We begin to notice our own thoughts more clearly. We understand our emotions in a way we didn't before. We see patterns in relationships. We recognize what feels genuine and what doesn't. This awareness is not a bad thing. In fact, it's a sign of emotional growth. But at the same time, it can make us feel more alone, because not everyone around us is operating at the same level of reflection. You may find that you can't easily share what you're really thinking, not because there's no one to talk to, but because it's hard to find someone who truly understands the depth of it. And so, even when you are with others, there can still be a sense of distance. This is why loneliness is not always about being physically alone. It's about feeling emotionally unseen. And then there is something even more subtle, but very powerful. As people grow older, they often become more cautious with their emotions. You may still want connection, just as much as before, but you express it differently. You hesitate. You think more before reaching out. You wonder if the other person is busy. You don't want to interrupt. You don't want to seem like you need too much. So instead of acting on the impulse to connect, you hold back. And when both sides do this, connection slowly weakens, not because the desire isn't there, but because it is no longer expressed in the same way. If you think about it, this creates a quiet cycle. You feel lonely, but you don't reach out. Others may feel the same way, but they also stay silent. And as a result, everyone ends up feeling more disconnected, even though the desire for connection still exists. Now, at this point, you might be thinking, if all of this is true, does it just get worse over time? And this is where I want to gently shift the perspective. Because there is another side to this experience, one that is often overlooked. Feeling more lonely as you get older does not necessarily mean that your life is becoming worse. In many ways, it means that your emotional world is becoming more refined. You are no longer satisfied with just being around people. You want to feel truly connected. You are more aware of what is real and what is not. And that awareness, while sometimes uncomfortable, is also what allows you to build more meaningful relationships in the long run. It also opens the door to something else that is very important, but often underestimated: the relationship you have with yourself. When life becomes quieter, when external noise decreases, you are left with your own thoughts more often. At first, this can feel unfamiliar, even uncomfortable. But over time, it can become something steady and grounding. You begin to understand yourself in a deeper way. You learn what brings you peace, what matters to you, what you truly value. And this kind of understanding cannot be developed in constant noise. It requires space. So instead of seeing loneliness only as something negative, it can also be seen as a signal. Not a signal that something is wrong, but a signal that something is changing, that your needs are evolving, that your awareness is growing, that you are in a transition, moving from one way of experiencing life to another. Of course, this doesn't mean you should simply accept loneliness without doing anything about it. There are gentle ways to respond to it, ways that don't feel forced or overwhelming, but still create movement. One small thing you can try is to shift the way you think about reaching out. Instead of waiting for the perfect moment, or for the other person to go first, you can allow yourself to take small steps. A simple message, a short check-in. It doesn't have to be deep or meaningful right away. Connection often begins in very ordinary ways. Another thing that can help is creating small, consistent moments in your daily life that bring a sense of calm and presence. This could be reading, listening to music, walking, writing, or even just sitting quietly for a few minutes. These moments may seem insignificant, but over time, they build a sense of stability within you. They remind you that even in quietness, there is still life, still experience, still meaning. And perhaps most importantly, you can begin to look for connection in a different way, not by trying to have more people, but by trying to find the right people. Even one or two meaningful connections can change how you experience loneliness. People who understand you, even partially. People you don't have to explain everything to. These connections may take time to find, but they are worth it. As we come to the end of this, I want to leave you with something simple. If you feel more lonely as you get older, it does not mean you are falling behind in life. It does not mean you are losing something. In many ways, it means you are becoming more aware, more selective, and more in tune with what truly matters to you. So the next time this feeling appears, instead of pushing it away immediately, you can pause for a moment, notice it, understand where it might be coming from, and remind yourself, gently, that you are not the only one who feels this way. There are many people, right now, experiencing the same quiet feeling, even if they never say it out loud, and somehow, knowing that, can make it feel just a little less lonely.